Hi, everyone. I'm Utkarsh, the founder of Network Capital. It's a pleasure to welcome Kaushik, a longtime friend and someone who's really guided Network Capital in a wide range of ways. I feel that the internet today is filled with all kinds of career advice. I think India has 1.3 billion cricket coaches. India also has 1.3 billion career coaches. Everyone in India has a very strong opinion on how careers should be built. That's why I think we need to learn to filter signal from noise. And today, Kaushik is going to talk about a very interesting triad of product, career, and market. And I'm going to let him talk about the structure of the session. I know that he's also planned a bunch of activities. I'm looking forward to that as well. Thank you, Kaushik. Really excited for you to be doing this with us and look forward to this session. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Utkarsh. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining on a Saturday. Really appreciate it. And I hope it's going to be worth your time. The thought of this actually started when I was having dinner with Utkarsh. And we were just generally talking about careers and life as we normally do. And one of the things that I've been trying to do over the last couple of years, at least, is to try and apply product thinking to my career. And I found that it's been quite helpful. And as time went by, Utkarsh was like, hey, why don't you do a masterclass on this? And as I put more thought into this as well, I started thinking about this concept of career PMF, which is basically trying to find fulfillment in your career using product thinking principles, which I think will be disappointing to some who are looking for what should be the next step. What my goal in this session really is to give you a few mental models to think about your career and your life, so that you're not just able to think about your next step, but you're actually able to think about your career as a marathon or as a journey, and do things that interest you, do things that make you grow, and do things that fulfill you through your life. Now, that said, this is a concept that is evolving and is something that I'm also like working through. So this is not a fully baked concept. I also would be wrong to claim that I've been doing this since I was a child, because that is definitely not true. I think some of this is connecting back the dots in my career. Some of this is stuff that I always did think about, but never had a framework to put it in. And some of this is inspired by my own journey into product and tech. So without further ado, I'll start off. The structure of the session will primarily be about 30 minutes of me talking and giving you a few mental models. And the remaining 30 minutes, we'll do an exercise and probably leave maybe about 10 minutes for a Q&A. I'm also cognizant that it's a Saturday and all of you are in different parts of the world. So I want to make sure it's a good use of your time, but also not go beyond the time allotted to this masterclass. So one of the things that Utkarsh always pushes me to do, which I think is pretty good, is to have outcomes written as to like what would be great at the end of the session. So I think personally for me, a great outcome here would be you have a mental model and you have the tools to think deeply about your career and vision, and you take the first step towards attaining your career product market fit. I think that is a great outcome. A good outcome is you start thinking about setting some kind of system for your career rather than YOLOing it, which I think a lot of us do, including myself, and have done so in the past. And actively try to avoid doing that now. And then a bad outcome here is you can have a cafe conversation about PMF and product visions and appear knowledgeable to your friends and family, which is also not entirely bad, but it's a bad outcome for this session in particular. So at the end of the session, we can send out a survey or some kind of feedback. Would love to understand how many of you had a great, good, or a bad outcome out of this. Before I move on to the session, I do know some of you on the call and some are new names. I just wanted to quickly talk a little bit about myself and why I think I'm uniquely qualified to talk about this. I think my career-wise, I've generally spent the past decade or so building products and businesses of some sort, whether they're consumer products or whether they're ad tech or whether they're now fintech products. On the face of it, as Ankita pointed out, I've had a pretty strange career. I started off selling makeup and doing ad shoots for L'Oreal in Asia. Then ended up as a consultant and did things like helping Nokia figure out like 4G in Finland in the winter, which was a good learning experience, but not entirely pleasant weather-wise. to changing the plumbing of a multi-billion-dollar ad tech industry and building a multi-billion-dollar business on the back of it for Facebook. I also tend to help startups a lot, both as an angel investor and as an advisor, some more than the others. And these range across different sectors, from agri-tech to voice infra. The reason why I'm able to context switch so easily, I feel, is because I have a very strong system of first principles. And career-wise, I have a strong system of accountability, a trusted set of advisors who help me make decisions, and a constant reminder to think long-term, which I keep doing. So, which is why I've been able to make some of the moves that I have made with conviction, although on the face of it, they might seem eclectic and not like a straight linear path. Right. So before we jump in, I want to talk about what is product market fit, right? And different people have different definitions for it. There are books written for it. I personally feel that product market fit is a continuous feeling and it's not an end state. So you attain product market fit for your product, and you also can lose it. So it is a continuous state in the sense that it is not an end state where you get PMF and then that's it and you're sorted for life. You have to keep working at it and make sure that your product is constantly fitting the market. There are several definitions of this. I like this one, which is an analogy, and Gaurav Munjal wrote this. So he says, imagine a city where 100% of your target group lives, and you open a store in the city which gives out your product for free for a couple of hours on a set date and time. If you're able to reach all of the customers, what percentage of the people living in your city or your customers or your TG will come to the store so that they can get your product for free? If it is a large number, then you have PMF. He didn't actually write if it's a large number. That is my addition. But basically, I think this is saying that if you have a very clear set of target, if you have a very clear target group, if you have a very clear set of customers, you have a very clear market, and you have marketing that helps you reach 100% of your customers should be standing in line to pick up your product. The moment there is friction, or the moment there is hesitation, or the moment that customers will not do that, is when you don't have product market fit. Most entrepreneurs try to keep getting to a stage where they will have PMF, and indeed that is probably one of the big stages in a startup's journey. But like I said, you have to keep doing it. Can you click once, please, for it? So, and a good example of this is next. Yeah, just a good example of products losing PMF, in my opinion. Not to badmouth my last employer, but if you think of Facebook, the app, and if you think of Facebook in 2007, I kind of grew up in that generation where Facebook was for young people and everyone was dying to get on Facebook. If you were young, you had to be there and you would share your photos. And at that point, it was really hard to share photos as well because there were no mobile cameras. But people would take photos and come back home and upload them on desktop onto Facebook. That is really, really good PMF. And that does not happen today with young people. It probably happens with an older set of generations. So in the young people market, I do believe that, for example, Facebook has lost product market fit, but it has got product market fit in a very different audience. And there are different, within young people, for example, for the use case of birthdays, I definitely do think that it has product market fit. Now, thinking about extending this concept to your career, right? So you don't really have customers and you don't really have, you don't really have a product because you are you. And I think this is probably the first thing that I would want you to take away from this session. Your product is your career. And the moment you start thinking about your career in a third person, that is when you will actually start seeing your career objectively rather than seeing it, as a part of you. And I think this change happened to me about a couple of years ago, where my personal identity was so tied to my employer and with what I was doing for a living, that I was not able to think about my career objectively, because a lot of the decisions that I was taking were probably not good for my career, but were good for my own personal self. And I think this is a key difference that you have to make, which is think of your career in third person. And then your career becomes your product, and you are able to do experiments with your career. You are able to fail in your career, and you are able to greatly succeed in your career instead of being on an average. So what I define as product market fit, and a lot of people have defined this in different ways, right? I mean, there's Nawal calls it what feels like play to you but work for others, which I think is a very good definition. A lot of people, like the Ikigai concept went viral, I think 5 years ago. You can call it that as well. There is no single definition. I don't actually think that anyone has actually made a canonical definition for this. My personal definition is something that you get paid for, ideally very well, which you're uniquely great at, which has high demand in the market, can be done easily by you, and results in fulfillment. Because, and even if you don't have any one of these, you will probably not feel the result of fulfillment. And quite often I felt that I was personally, like a couple of years ago, I was running like behind a promotion or behind more money or behind more like a better title or things like that. But those things actually don't result in fulfillment. You will only be fulfilled if you get all of these things that I've listed out over here, which to me is product market fit for your career. Again, thinking about your career as a third person, not thinking about your career as this is a part of me. I'll pause there because that is a significant shift in like mental model, and see if anyone has any questions about thinking about your career in third person. If anyone has any questions, if you can put that in chat, I can answer them, or you can just unmute yourself and talk. Otherwise, I can move on.
I'm sure there are questions on this. It's very useful advice, Kaushik, I think. When did you start thinking about it? When did it occur to you?
So I've never told you this, but this was actually 2 years ago when you pushed me to write the first NC article, and I was worried about it. And I was like, yeah, but like, am I representing Facebook? Am I doing this? And am I doing this for Facebook, et cetera, et cetera? And you were definitely one of the catalysts for me to start thinking about it. The other is when one of the founders that I now help out probably more than the others, I was talking to him, and he runs the startup in Spain. And he was like, yeah, like you do this at Facebook, but you have so much more that you can offer, and I want you to help me. And that's when I started thinking about like, hey, like this is actually different to me as a person. This is my career, and my career doesn't necessarily need to be a single direction, like a unidirectional thing, and like only one thing at a time. It can actually be a portfolio.
Yeah.
So Utkarsh actually asked my question, but so I've been in the same company for 10 years, and I completely relate to what you're saying, because you suddenly become one with the company, and it's very difficult to look at your career as a third person. So you have looked at it as a third person when you were in Facebook, but do you still continue to do so even in other endeavors?
Yes, now I do even more actually. Now I unabashedly do so. I've been able to practice detachment from my own career and not let it affect, I guess, like my own personal feeling of self-worth, because that is just separate to me. So which is why like I try to do a lot of things outside. Like I enjoy helping people. So I will do like, a session like this, for example, or I would probably go out and help a startup, or I'd probably go out and invest, because those are all like attached to my career. They're not attached to me as a person. And that makes it very easy just from a mental point of view.
Yeah, good. Thanks.
Right. Sorry, go on.
One question on the final part. So for me, when I look at the sentence, the first few elements in the sentence are easy to attain. When I look at the last part of the sentence, results in fulfillment, right? That's where I struggle with. So, So if you can just elaborate on what exactly do you mean by fulfillment?
Yeah. So so this is actually more like a formula. This is my personal formula. Is if you add up something that you get paid for, and something that you're uniquely great at, and something that has a high demand and can be done easily for you, by you, that equals fulfillment for me personally. And fulfillment for me personally is a state where I am happy, where I am looking forward to doing the job or doing the work that I'm doing, whatever that may be, and it could be multiple careers. And it is something that doesn't cause me stress. Outside of like intellectual curiosity, there is like intellectual stress that can happen, but doesn't cause me personal stress, right? There have been situations in the past where I've been like, hey, like I don't like doing this, but I have to do this because I get paid for it. Fulfillment is basically not saying that ever, ideally, in the job that you do.
All right, thank you.
So just as products can lose PMF, I feel like your careers can lose it too. So just to share a personal story, like I started off in consumer goods, and if you had met me when I started my career there, I would have probably said that I want to be the CMO of L'Oreal, which is where I worked first. And but very, very quickly, I realized that this is not fulfilling me, because a lot of the work that I was doing, I felt was moving too slowly, or the work was not specifically interesting, or it was just doing the same thing over and over again, which did not result in fulfillment for me. And I did not also think that it was something that will continue to have a high demand in the market, because I could see that the whole marketing brand space was becoming more and more automated. So like in 20, 30 years, I have a very controversial opinion that I feel that most marketing will not be done by people. Which is why I felt like I was losing PMF in my career in consumer goods, and which is why I pivoted to something that I thought was more interesting. And I ran a few experiments along the way, but we can talk about those in probably another masterclass. So I think that PMF in your career can be attained by applying product thinking to your career. This is probably the first step in giving you some of the tools to attain that PMF. There is a whole system of this that I have thought of and that I have been following, which has worked well. So this masterclass will probably give you the first tool, but there's probably about 7 or 8 of them. And Utkarsh and I are talking about doing a CBC for taking you through all of those tools on network capital. Right. So what is product thinking? So there is a lot of jargon in the product space. I think if you spend more than 5 minutes on Twitter, I think you will realize that. But broadly, I think that product thinking boils down to thinking of your career as a product, which basically means 2 things. First one is thinking of your career in third person. That's number 1. And then the second one is you start having a set of tools to manage this abstract entity, which is your third person career. And there are a whole set of tools. So I think I'll touch upon the big ones there. The first one is having a mission or a North Star, and you can. There are different ways to get there. A second tool, for example, is a strategy to get there, which is a career strategy, which is very similar to a product strategy. A set of principles to operate with, which are your career operating principles, and a system to keep accountability. So there are different systems that are used in products. So OKRs, for example, or product reviews. I have a set of advisors who are from very, very different like spaces in my life. And I try to do like a board meeting with them once a year at least. So these are kind of some of the systems that I've put through to make sure that I'm able to succeed. And I want to share all of those with you. Obviously, we don't have the time to get through all of that today. Today, I'm going through a tool which I've not mentioned in this list because we're going to talk about it, which is product vision and how to create your own career vision, which is different from a mission. So why is this system important, right? Because you can also say that like my calling in life is to go be a vet, or my calling in life is to go improve education. And I think those are all like admirable callings, but life happens in the middle, right? Because you have to make a certain set of decisions at different points in time. And in an ideal scenario, you would make all of those decisions using data, right? So let's say you had, there was one lady here on earlier who's a consultant, and she's like, I'm thinking of like what to do next. Ideally, you would have all the data, and you would have maybe like 3 or 5 jobs, and you would have a good idea of the culture in those companies, what the salary is, what the levels are, and so on and so forth. And you would get all of those at the same time, and you would be at a good space in your personal life to actually change your job. But life actually doesn't happen that way. On a random Tuesday, probably somebody's going to offer you a job that you don't know very much about, and you probably have to decide in 24 hours whether to take it or not without knowing your options. So in those kinds of situations, and generally in life, I feel that most decisions are made on most trajectory changing decisions are not made on the basis of data. They're made on the basis of what in product is called product sense. In life, you call it sixth sense. You can also call it gut. And when you make those decisions, you can't always rely on your gut, because sometimes your gut says the right thing and tells you what to do. But sometimes your gut is also fearful. Sometimes your gut overthinks, and sometimes it might take the wrong call. So this system is actually not useful 99% of the time, but it is useful in the 1% of time when you have to make irrational decisions, and you can go back to something you've written, and you can see if that actually that irrational decision actually fits in within, for example, the operating principles that you write out for yourself. Right. Therefore, I feel that if you have this strong system written down, it will always result in a favorable outcome. And I never use the word always, but in this case, I'm using it because I know it works. Right. So I'm talking about product vision today as probably the first tool. And I want to talk a little bit about what product visions are and how you can write a career vision for yourself. So a product vision is, and let's go through an example, right? And product visions are usually written like this. And I'm going to talk about like a few products that you're probably used to. And these are obviously not the product visions of that product, but this is my interpretation of it. It's not perfect, but it's meant to give you some idea of how to write a product vision. So what a product is basically the lowest divisible unit in any kind of a platform. So if you think of Facebook as a platform, Facebook reactions, for example, will be a product. So if you think of what the vision of Facebook reactions is Facebook reactions are a product that help people easily react to photos, posts, and videos by providing a fixed set of emotions in an easy, relatable, and fun way, right? So there are several questions around this, right? So why doesn't Facebook have 2,000 different reactions? Because it would not be easy. Why doesn't Facebook have personalized reactions to people? Because it is not a fixed set of emotions. So your product vision should hit all of the tests that explain why something is not a particular way. And I'll talk more about this, so bear with me while I go through these slides. I'll go through another example. Can you click through, please, Farah? So if you think of Facebook photos as a product, right? The goal of Facebook photos is Facebook photos are a product that help users connect with their community by helping users share photos in a collaborative, location-driven, and high-quality way. So in this, so if someone comes to you and says, hey, I want to do photo editing on Facebook, and I want to build a full-fledged photo editor on Facebook, if you're the product manager of Facebook photos, you're probably going to say no, because it doesn't fit with the vision, because it doesn't really talk anywhere about editing or anywhere about giving users the capability to actually change the configuration of the photos. So this is what a product vision looks like, where usually the first line is what the product is. The second line is what the product does. The third line is how the product actually does it. And the last line is all of the emotions attached to it, which is how does the product actually operate. Is that clear in terms of like how product visions are written? You don't need to become an expert at this, but like if you get the general idea, we should be good. Can I get like a thumbs up in the chat if I'm good to go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So you add up product visions to create the platform vision, right? So if you go to the next slide, you will see Facebook's vision, which is, again, this is my interpretation of it, which will add up, which basically all of the different products in Facebook add up to. So Facebook is a platform that helps people build communities by connecting people and making interactions easy in a fun, frictionless, and easy to navigate way. If we can go back to the slide, if you actually see, all of these will hold the test of the platform vision. So if you think of like Facebook photos as a product, you will see that help users connect with their community. And if you can go to the next slide again, sorry. So photos helps users connect with their community, and Facebook helps people build communities. So you have to think of this in a mathematical way, where the lowest divisible product has a vision, and all of those visions add up to create a platform vision, right? And I'm trying to build this mental model so that you can think about this in your career, which I will come to. I know this is not a product vision masterclass, but I think it's important to talk about the theory of this first before we go into the application. Okay, so I actually have a question: is what is LinkedIn's product vision? Can someone take a shot?
Okay, so according to what I think, LinkedIn's vision would be to enable people to build a professional network.
That's a good answer.
Scale connections, basically.
Good answer.
Can I give it a shot?
Yeah.
There are two in the chat as well. I'll quickly read them out. To connect hiring teams to candidates, build professional communities. And the third is to create connected platform where people can build their careers and professional lives.
Awesome. I think all of these are credible answers. Anyone else who wants to take a shot?
I think someone was saying before I spoke, so please go ahead.
Yeah, I wrote to build professional communities along with connecting potential employers to candidates.
Awesome. And can we go to the next slide? I'll tell you what my interpretation of LinkedIn's product vision is. I obviously don't know, but I actually think that LinkedIn is a platform that helps people find jobs by connecting recruiters to CV in a targeted, analytical, and scalable way. Now, this wording is very important because there is a negative test that you have to run against each platform. LinkedIn, a lot of people complain about like LinkedIn having a very shitty user interface, right? And like endorsements and this and that, which like people make fun of a lot. But actually, if you think about LinkedIn from this lens, where the whole job of LinkedIn is to help people find jobs and connect recruiters to CVs, all of that starts making a lot of sense. Because if you're a product manager at LinkedIn who's trying to prioritize investments, you are probably going to try and prioritize as much data as possible from the candidates, which is where stuff like endorsements, etc., tends to help, right? Because all of those might not be high signal in a discrete way. So in the sense, for example, let's say, Varun, I endorse you for sales, and then I endorse you for painting. And I don't know if you paint or not. I'm hoping you don't. But if I endorse you for painting, just for you, it actually doesn't make that much sense. But when you bring in scale of millions of users, you're probably going to find a good pattern amongst people who paint. So that tends to help in achieving the longer term vision, which is, and the vision basically, which is to connect recruiters to CVs. And it also helps you do that in a scalable way. So and again, I haven't worked at LinkedIn. If anyone here works at LinkedIn, I'd love to understand if this is right or not. But when someone says LinkedIn has a really bad UI and the app is really shit and it feels like it's 1990, I agree with all of those things. But that is not the purpose of the platform, because I don't think LinkedIn is geared towards anyone building professional connections. Like I really don't know most of the people on my LinkedIn. People just keep adding you and sending messages. The whole point of LinkedIn is to connect recruiters to CVs, whether it is people who use the recruiting product, or whether it is people messaging each other to say, can you refer me to this job? And in that sense, I actually think that LinkedIn does the job admirably well, and doesn't actually need to invest in the user side of things unless somebody else comes up with a better way to do this.
I absolutely agree. It makes sense that the purpose of LinkedIn as a platform based on this vision is not so much to connect people, but more to just connect recruiters to CVs. They are doing a good job of sort of sticking to the vision that they've identified. So all other sort of negatives that people talk about for LinkedIn don't really hold as against this product vision.
Right. And if I ask you a question, so let me ask you a question to test your test if I've got this right. So if let's say let's say I worked at LinkedIn and you were the product manager, and I came to you with an idea to say, hey, we should allow people to share photos easily and build a LinkedIn photos product. How would you test that against this?
So against each of the four statements, whether LinkedIn is a platform.
You can reason the idea against the vision.
Right. So basically reasoning it against the vision, having a photos product would not help people find job unless it's sort of probably in the Bollywood or something. And it is not going to help you connect recruiters to CVs. Analytics also, I don't think would help here, the targeted, analytical, and scalable way. So ideally, that would not be a product that I would want to go for because it doesn't adhere to my product vision.
Awesome. You've got it. Thank you for engaging. There is another question here from Preshit, which I think is a very important one, which is regarding negative tests. How do you manage to test as the vision of the product evolves? So I don't want to go into too much detail here. Otherwise, I think this will become a product session. But I think that you need to. So the reason why I feel that you tend to lose PMF amongst certain segments is because you try to do too many things at the same time. So for example, like LinkedIn has a creator mode right now. And I have no idea why they have a creator mode, because like that doesn't seem to make any sense to me at all if I use this vision, right? Like on LinkedIn today, for example, you can tag yourself as a creator and it'll like automatically boost your posts and it'll allow you to create like different types of content, etc. And I don't know how that fits against this vision, but they do it. And to answer your question, Preshit, I think that tends to happen when you try to do too many things at the same time, which also is one of the side effects of having a lot of scale and a lot of money and a lot of people with interesting ideas, but no direction. That's my honest view.
So does that mean that when you are trying to focus on a product vision, it evolves into a different territory, and not a different territory exactly, but focusing on different virtues of a product that is going on? Where does that fit in? I'm a bit unclear on that.
Yeah, sure. So I think the word you're looking for here is intention. So you need to move towards your vision intentionally. And if you want to change your vision, it's totally okay to do that. It's not something that you have to write in, it's not set in stone, but you need to be intentional about it. So to continue like the creator LinkedIn use case, if I changed it to LinkedIn as a platform that helps people find fulfillment in their career, or that helps people become a poly worker, to use the name of another startup. In that case, probably the creator use case might make sense. It's still awkward, but it might make sense.
Exactly, because LinkedIn, from a perspective of developing professional relationships, makes much more sense in the way that I think all the new modes, where the creator mode and the ways to publish or popularize your profile fits in there.
Correct.
So if I may put it, it's evolved from a platform that helps people find jobs to a platform that helps people connect and grow professionally. Does that make sense?
So I would still not agree that it helps people grow professionally. I probably think that it could help people build their own personal brand, which is different to people growing professionally. Because in order for people to grow professionally, you would actually need to make meaningful professional connections, which I don't think are made on LinkedIn. Like, I don't know, for example, a single person who I have met off LinkedIn and formed a very strong personal bond with. And I don't know many people who have as well. Again, it's anecdotal evidence, but still.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So thinking about your own personal product vision, right? So this is not perfect, but this is, for example, what is my professional product vision? So if you think of yourself as a discrete set of products, similar to how I spoke about reactions and photos, with your career you as a person as a platform, this is how you would want to think about it, right? So career-wise, you'd probably be like, Kaushik is a professional who is in the top 1% of running businesses by combining breadth of functions with depth of expertise in a fun to work with, ethical and high agency way. There's some jargon here, so I'll break it down. So this is my professional product vision. And the second line talks about where I want to be in that space, in whatever space I'm in. But as a professional, I want to be in the top 1% of running businesses. You don't have to always be in the top 1%. I, for example, probably want to be in the top quartile of angel investors. I don't want to be in the top 1%, maybe, right? Like, because that will just require a lot more time. But you need to be very intentional about it. I want to combine breadth of functions with depth of expertise. So if you think of like the different roles I've done, like I said, they're pretty eclectic, but that works because what I'm trying to do right now is to build a breadth of functions and build expertise depth in one or two things that I particularly like, or I feel that I'm uniquely great at. Product is one of them, right? And the way I would do it is in a fun to work with, ethical and high agency way, right? Fun to work with is very important for me. I enjoy working in cultures where, jokes are allowed and, people are more their full self, and which is why I enjoyed working at Facebook a lot. I like working in ethical environments, so I would probably not go work for a Philip Morris or, a lot of the healthcare manufacturers. And I would want to do that in a high agency way. High agency basically means that you write your own story, which means I do not like to work in very hierarchical environments where people are calling each other sir, or there are three types of, like, there is AGM1, AGM2, GM1, GM2. So I would probably not enjoy doing that. So why is this helpful, right? So when I'm looking at like opportunities or jobs or things that I want to do, I test that against this vision, right? So is it helping me either build breadth or is it helping me build depth? Is this an environment that I think is going to be fun? is this a company that has an ethical business? And is it somewhere where I feel that I can have high agency or not? And that basically helps me then evaluate opportunities that I might want to pursue or not want to pursue. Let's try another one. Yeah. So this is like me as a friend, right? So I'm a friend who is extremely reliable, affectionate, and kind, by caring deeply, being thoughtful in an easygoing, non-egoistic way, right? So this is important because like it also defines the kind of friend I am. So I'm probably not the friend who's going to message you on WhatsApp every day and send you memes and doing all of those things. But for important moments in life, I would care deeply and I would be thoughtful and I would try and do whatever I can to make sure that, you know, I'm there on important days, on important occasions for my friends. I would like to be easygoing, so I'm not intense in that way. And I derive pleasure out of success of my friends. So I have zero ego in any of my friends succeeding, doing things. In fact, I try to do all of that as much as possible for them. Let's try another one. So this is another professional vision, right? Which is, I'm an angel investor who is disproportionately helpful and have pointed feedback by having high trust, strong conviction in an easily approachable and relatable way. So when I angel invest, I write very small checks, but my help size is much, much higher to my check size, which is why I'm disproportionately helpful. I have pointed feedback, so I don't engage in topics I don't know about, and topics I know about, I'm pretty direct about. I have very high trust, so I will open up my network to people, to companies that I care about or I invest in. I have very strong conviction, so I will back them through thick and thin. And I'm easily approachable. I have most of, like all the companies I help out, I have them on WhatsApp, and I try to do that in as relatable a way as possible. So that's broadly my, like, if you were to think of Kaushik as a product and disambiguate, those are like the three different parts. And there are several more that I can write, but those are the three different parts. So let's try and craft this into a career vision, right? So next slide. So Kaushik is a person who likes winning by increasing all kinds of leverage in a high trust and fun way. So Varya will have to help me by going back and forth on this for a while. So if you look at what is common in all three of angel investor, professional, and friend, it is that I want to be in that top quartile or the top 1%, and I like to win. And winning is different in different contexts. So winning, for example, at work is very different from winning at angel investing, which is very different from winning as a friend. Winning as a friend doesn't mean that you're better than all your friends. Winning as a friend probably means, for me, that I'm extremely reliable and I am there when my friends need me. That is winning. One of the things that I spoke about was increasing all kinds of leverage, right? And I try to increase all kinds of leverage by increasing what is, what Utkarsh terms as serendipity surface area, which, and if you notice, I do that professionally, friend-wise, and angel investor-wise. So I have a breadth of functions instead of just one, because I want to increase that leverage. I care deeply and I'm thoughtful because I want to increase that leverage. I have high trust and strong conviction because I want to increase that leverage. Right? So all of these add up to the vision of Kaushik as a person. And there are different ways in which this can be articulated, and you can separate this out just into career. So you can remove the friend bit, for example, if you wanted, and you could just say Kaushik as a professional, Kaushik as an angel investor, Kaushik as a startup advisor, Kaushik as a mentor. And that can be just Kaushik's career vision. But I wanted to show you how all of these add into a platform vision for yourself. Next slide, please. And high trust and fun way. If you notice in all of the ones that I spoke about earlier, there will be words that indicate high trust and a lot of fun. Easygoing, non-egoistic, easily approachable, relatable, fun to work with, ethical. Those are all words that come in and add up, in my view, at least, to come to fit the last line of my vision as a person. Right. Any questions there? Was that clear? Or
there's one question.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can go ahead.
No, Varun, go ahead. Then we can take Sri Chand's question and the one in the chat.
Okay. Kaushik, I just wanted to know an example from your end where you have done negative testing on your personal product vision. Or have you ever done that?
Yeah, so I can share a story if you can go back. So I actually had an offer from a very I mean, at the time it was a very hot vaping company, which was also a tech company, quote unquote. And I said no to it because I did not think it was ethical. And I went back to that and I was like, okay, this doesn't work for me. All of the other things work for me, but the ethical thing does not work for me. So I said no to it. Another example is when I had a couple of marketing jobs straight out of business school, which were, honestly, they were really good. And they paid me more than what my McKinsey job paid me. And they were a better, fancier title, all of those kinds of things. But I said no to them because I wanted to combine a breadth of functions. And I was very clear about that. And I did not want to go linearly in marketing. So it helps to sit down and write this. It feels like 4 lines. It is 4 lines. But it takes a lot of time to come to a place where you are very, very happy with it, because every word in that means something to me. And none of it is noise. Does that answer your question, Varun?
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
No problem.
Thanks, Varun. Srichand, you can go ahead.
Hey, Karthik. Sorry, hey, Kaushik. Sorry.
Hi.
Kaushik,
the child I've been called Karthik, so it's okay. Don't worry.
So you've given 3 different facets of your life, right? And you've talked about the checking out using the negative strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So how was your approach here? Did you do this exercise first and then the next slide came out, or you've looked at okay, what is my North Star, and then you've looked at all spaces of your life where you could connect those dots?
So bottom up, break down your life into its constituent parts, and everybody has a different life and everybody will have different constituent parts, right? So and some of those parts will die out over time because you grow. So I think that's totally fine. If for example, like if you'd asked me last year, I'd attempted to start a Clubhouse show. So I would sit down and write what that would mean for me as a podcaster or as a creator. But that part of me has now died. So it's not there here.
So the negatives, checking out the negatives is one way to go about it. And then the breadth and the vertical is one way to go about it, right? So here, what would be those ones?
I'm not sure I followed your question. Can you tell me a little bit more?
So you've mentioned that for you, the goals are what you're looking for is fun and high agency, and then you'd like to get your knowledge so in a generalist way with specifics on certain things, right?
No.
How would it translate to these things? So is being an angel investor is the vertical thing, and in that you've looked at it where you want to look for.
Yes. So being an angel investor helps me build a breadth of functions. It doesn't help me build depth of expertise, because I don't write 100 checks a year and I don't see thousands of deals. I only I've only recently started and I advise more than I invest, but I do both of those things because it gives me breadth of expertise, because I get to talk to companies who are doing very, very interesting things that are at very different levels of maturity and engage with them on topics ranging from how should I market something to how should I build a product to how should I design my org, how should I hire this person, how should I how should I think about the next round of fundraising, all of those kinds of questions, which help me build breadth of expertise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There are 2 questions in the chat. The first is where does mission fit in the product career vision? That's the first.
Yeah.
And the second is, should I ask the second one or should we come back to it?
Yeah, on this one, let's come back to it because there's some stuff in the next slide about the mission. So let's put a pin on that. What's the next question?
How specific should your product vision be?
As specific as possible. Like this is something where I recommend investing a lot of time and ruminating over it over a long time, because you will write something and then you will realize that initially what you've written has a lot of noise. And then you would want to change some of the words. You would not find the right word to articulate. You probably want to share it with one or two confidants that you have. Which is where advisors come in useful. You probably want to share it with advisors of yours if you have any, get to a point where it gets to more than 90%, where you're more than 90% comfortable with it.
Sorry, I just have a follow-up question with this.
Yeah.
On this. So I'm looking at movement in your professional product vision. It says by combining breadth of functions with depth of expertise. Now, a lot of angel investors usually pick a theme like either fintech or something like that, where they can build out their expertise, right? So when I see functions and expertise, it's a little vague, right? So that's what I mean. Should it be vague enough to have room to accommodate other interests, or should it be specific so as to limit yourself and focus on like one particular thing?
Yeah. So I don't think angel investing actually gives you expertise in doing anything. It gives you expertise in evaluating companies, and it gives you some kind of outside expertise in looking at how those companies evolve. But if I invested specifically in fintech companies, I'd probably become very good at evaluating fintech companies and telling you which ones would succeed. But I'll probably not be I don't have any data to prove that I would be very good at building a fintech business. The best way to build a fintech business is to go build a fintech business, not invest in it. Do you see what I mean? So I look at angel investing more from the point of view of like helping me build that breadth and helping me increase leverage in my platform vision, rather than giving me any depth whatsoever. I don't think angel investing gives me any depth.
Right. So I was just using it as an example, but what I mean is, should it be broad enough to accommodate, because maybe if, for instance, if I want to do consulting, but my vision is too narrow on consulting, but like tomorrow I want to do something relating to tech or product, should it be broad enough to accommodate different interests, but at the same time, like maybe a specific theme that, okay, it's tech. So it could be consulting in tech or product in tech. So that's broad, but not specific enough.
Got it. So I understand your question now. It needs to be broad. Consulting is a job. Product is a job. Tech is an industry. None of those should actually find a place in your vision, because those are just things that you do. Like those are just job roles. Like if you notice, like in any of these, there is no job mentioned anywhere, or there is no product mentioned anywhere. Like product management is not there. There's no marketing. There's no consulting. There is no tech, because I want it to be not linked to a particular job. And this is that mental model of like making sure that you think of your career as a separate product that fulfills a particular objective, rather than thinking of it as a particular job, or thinking of it or associating it with a more worldly item today. So today, like product in tech is hot. Tomorrow, maybe, I don't know, something in crypto will be very hot, or maybe painting in the metaverse becomes really, really hot. You should be able to run those negative tests against your vision for those ones. We can do an experiment, right? Like, so let's assume tomorrow, let's assume that there is a job, suddenly painting becomes really, really big, and you're like painting in the metaverse in order to mint NFTs becomes a really, really hot topic. Why don't we try and use that with the product vision, right? So if you go back, Varya, we can try this. I just made that example up, but it doesn't help me run a business. So like, it's not something that I would want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, makes sense.
So, yeah. Okay, let's move on, because I have an exercise as well. So few principles that you have to follow, which will probably help you write yours. is number one, it has to be customer focused. So in this case, your customer can be your employer, friends, partner, etc. Like whoever you're writing the vision for. So it has to be for that person, not for you. It has to be a stretch. So else it's a reality, not a vision. So if I say I want to live in London, that is not a vision. Like that is something that I do today. Or if I say I want to be in tech, that's something that I do today. That can't be. That's not a stretch. So it has to. That's not a stretch at all. So it has to be a stretch, but also not too much where it is like almost impossible, right? So it can't be something like I want to win the javelin Olympic gold. Very little odds of me doing that from my mid-30s, not so fit self to beating Neeraj Chopra. That's not going to happen. If it makes you uncomfortably happy, it's a good vision. That's the way I think about it. It has to be different to others, so it can't be the same as your friends or something that Elon Musk has written, because like it's your vision and it's not someone else's. So it has to be uniquely you, and that's why there is no harm in sharing it. It has to be continuous and not a discrete stage. So I want to get to consulting. I want to be a CEO. That is not a vision. That is just a goal, and that is not something that you should even bring close to your product vision. To one of the questions earlier around like what is like mission and how does mission fit in, I'll talk about that in the CVC when we do it. But broadly, a mission is something that is a continuous improvement that you are likely adding, or the purpose of your life or your career. So I am thinking through. I have a few ideas of what mine are, and I have written that down. But I'll talk through that more in the CBC, Preshit, if that's okay. Because you're also running short of time, so I want to make sure that we have at least 10 minutes to do the exercise. Next slide, please. So does everyone here have about 10 minutes? 10 or 15 minutes? Can we go over?
Yeah, I think that should be fine. If someone, yeah, I see yes in the chat already.
Okay. If anyone wants to drop, feel free to drop. But like this is the last slide anyway. But I thought we'll do an activity. If everyone can take 10 minutes and write down a rudimentary product vision. Obviously, like I said, this takes a lot of time to crystallize. But if you can write down your product vision as a friend, a professional, a partner, if applicable, or someone else, we can take about 10 minutes. You can write that, and I'll pick 3 folks at random who are still online to share, and we can talk through it. Does that work as an exercise?
Yeah, I'm just shifting it to the slides in case you want to look at the format.
All right, shall we start? Cool.
Let's do it. Who do you pick?
So I'll go with Rishabh. Let's do Rishabh first.
Cool. Rishabh, it's your moment to shine.
Hi.
Hi, Rishabh.
Hey, sorry, just taking out my notes screen.
No worries. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where just where you based and what you do?
Sure, yeah. So I'm Rishabh. I am based in Goa at the moment, recently moved out here, going through a transitional change. I majored in finance in 2015 from Emory University, and then I was working in real estate finance for a few years, and then I was with a trade finance fund.
Nice.
And then in 2019, end of 2018, beginning 2019, I returned to India and started Bengal Bay Drinks, where I've been making the range of the world's first organic mixers.
Nice.
Which we're now we're selling. So I'm figuring out what I want to do next, and technology has been of most interest to me. So
Nice.
figuring out where I want to be in it and how to get in it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you want to share one of your visions? Whichever one you're most comfortable sharing?
Yeah, I can. So Rishabh as a friend and Rishabh as a professional entrepreneur are two product visions I can share.
Why don't you do entrepreneur and professional?
Sure. So professional and an entrepreneur, I kind of combined in one, I guess. I hadn't really need a lot more deep thinking too. It's more intensive than one would think. So maybe Rishabh as an entrepreneur who is growing organizations by solving problems and identifying opportunities in a manner that is sustainable and ethical for sure, for societies and businesses at large.
Right. That's really cool. And I think great start. Perhaps a couple of things to think about, I would say, is to think about how entrepreneur fits in there with the other three lines.
Right.
A good test to do this is to replace entrepreneur with like 2-3 other professions. So you could change it to, like, if you change it to professional, does it still hold?
Yeah.
And if it does, then it's not uniquely entrepreneur.
Right.
That's one thing to think about. I think the other thing to think
so
about
an entrepreneur can be a professional as well, right? Like
yes, correct.
It's more of an approach more than a role or title.
Correct. But you want to think about how the other three lines uniquely also add up to the entrepreneur. Think of it a little bit like Sudoku. So I think one of the things that you spoke about in your vision was solving problems and I think operating businesses. But was that it?
Yeah. So I said growing organizations by solving problems and identifying opportunities. Yeah.
So if you replaced entrepreneur with professional and had the same one and you had both side by side, which one do you think flows better or like is a more natural fit? It's just something to think about. You don't need to answer it now.
Sure.
But think a little bit about like, what is it about an entrepreneur that is going to be unique to the rest of your vision?
What is it about an entrepreneur that will be unique to
the rest of your vision? So for example, if you say Rishabh is an entrepreneur who wants to make every party enjoyable, that probably fits well with the mixer business rather than this. But again, it's just for a mixer business, so it doesn't fit for like an entrepreneur as a whole. But like these are like you want to test that multiple ways and stress test it to get to a point. It's not like a 5-minute exercise anyway. So Take the time.
For sure.
Great start.
Good. Thanks. One question. There's like, there's so many roles, there's so many type of things. I think like people that at our age are trying to be, because we're still yet to sort of reach our sort of career pinnacles. We're reading all these books. There's so much that we want to know. Like, how do we know what like what's a good way to figure out like where we should be? Is one thing I'd like to know.
Yeah, I found it helpful to write the vision agnostic of profession. So agnostic of like industry or job, and then find the job or industry that fits your vision rather than vice versa. Right? Because obviously you'd probably want to be in tech, or you'd probably want to be in the drinks business, or you'd probably want to be in something, those are industries. And then like there are jobs, you want to be a product manager or a marketing manager or a consultant or whatever that may be. I think that automatically restricts your thinking a lot. So it helps to like keep all of that aside, write on a blank slate what your vision is, finalize that, and then test professions against that.
So I'm going to ask you even more basic. How can you help develop even that vision? How can one help develop that vision also?
Yeah. So like I said, right, a lot of this will come to like your product sense, which is like, what is it that you want to do? And what is it that you find fulfillment in? So I really find fulfillment, for example, being really good at work. I have friends who don't really care about being very good at work. They just want a salary to come in. That's also fine.
Yeah.
But that kind of gives you some kind of direction, right? So you need to reflect very deeply on what is it that you care about in each space of your life.
Right. Got it. Cool. Thanks.
No worries. Let's do one more and end the session. Anyone wants to volunteer, or otherwise I'll pick from random. Any volunteers?
Maybe Varun, do you want to go ahead on Mishti?
Yeah, so I've written as a friend. I'm still trying to pen down the professional one, so it's not ready yet. Yeah. But yeah, so it says Varun is a friend who is empathetic, affectionate, and fun by being a good listener and caring about others, along with displaying a strong sense of humor.
That's great. I actually have no feedback on that because I know you, and I know that I think that you do a lot of those things already, and I think that's pretty good. And you saw how that like flowed easily. It flowed easily because you know exactly what you want to do there, and you're probably already doing that in many ways. If I asked you to write about something that you don't do today, it would get deeply uncomfortable, and you would have to think about it.
Right. So, which is why I think the professional one, I'm still trying to find the right words to express myself.
Yeah. So take the time. And I think that's fine. But you've got the mental model at least, so I'm happy.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. Just as a side note, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm starting a newsletter soon where we'll probably talk about these things. And Utkarsh and I are starting a CBC on Network Capital to talk about this. So ideally, try to subscribe to the newsletter and join the CBC if you would like to go through the entire toolkit. The newsletter is on the last slide. Varya, if you can project.
Thank you all for joining this session. Kaushik, I thought you were able to explain really tricky concepts very well. And for people who came and spent the Saturday evening with us, you are destined to succeed. Anybody who spends Saturday learning is going to meet that outcome. Have a wonderful time. Thank you again, Kaushik. Varya, you all didn't get a chance to meet. She leads products and government affairs for Network Capital and basically keeps the company sane and alive. See you all. Join Kaushik's newsletter. It's going to be awesome. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.